both of them for the presentation that they made to us this evening. Thank you to both of the delegates. Next, we have support for local journalism and news media, agenda item 11.2. And there is a delegate who's speaking to the motion. And since it's a motion I was putting forward, I'll ask Councillor Foster to take the chair during this delegation. So Councillor Foster, you can take the chair if you will.
Thank you, Chair Bradley. So yes, the next speaker we have is Sandor Ligetfalvy. Sandor, please, you're on. Oh, good evening, Sandor. Good evening. You have 10 minutes. Please proceed.
Thank you. Members of council, I sincerely thank you for approving my delegation to speak this evening. My name is Sandor Ligetfalvy. I'm here to raise questions and concerns about this motion in context of media activities in recent months. Local media has demonstrated political bias and social harm, some of which I've documented through my social media channels. Members of this council know well the media bias. You have either benefited from or been harmed by the bias in the media. Regardless of who benefits from it, the bias is undeniable. This goes beyond simply holding politicians accountable for their words, but engineering narratives and encouraging social division. In my view, by endorsing this motion, council appears to be making a political commitment which is both incomplete and inappropriate. It appears to be endorsing the unfair influence local media continues to play in regional politics, at the same time when a rebuke may be necessary. Since the time that I graduated from journalism at Niagara College in 2006, the journalism in
Sandor, we seem to have lost you. We'll just give him a moment to reconnect.
Chair?
There you are, you're back. Okay, good. So you've been sort of offline for about 30 seconds, so, okay.
Yes, all right. So since I graduated from journalism in 2006, the industry's been in decline. Journalism's business model has been failing and public trust has been falling. Journalism has become more partisan, biased, and antagonistic. And I'm not sure how this motion addresses that. As you know, last week, the St. Catharines Standard closed its physical office. This does signify that there is a problem, but in my view, it's not your problem and not a problem this motion adequately addresses. In my view, legislation such as what would be endorsed here might only exacerbate and not solve the problems of media bias and thus mistrust. The motion appears to protect the media establishment as the de facto institution of truth. It appears to have regional council taking a side in an issue of business competition between alternative voices and the mainstream, siding, of course, with the mainstream. I respectfully submit that I either do not fully understand the motion and am seeking greater clarity and specification, or I simply cannot endorse this proposal and neither should council. The motion resolves to urge the federal government to, quote, move quickly to pass legislation to ensure an ecosystem for healthy news media to serve all Canadians. What does this mean specifically? Is it tied to a specific piece of federal legislation? What would an example of legislation for a healthy ecosystem for news media entail? The goals articulated by the motion may be laudable, but these are complicated issues that I don't think anyone here today has complete answers for. I appreciate the opportunity for the discussion. However, I don't believe that anyone here can answer what exactly is being endorsed with this motion. Is federal legislation the solution to supporting local journalism? Federal solutions require federal debate. So why is this before a regional council? Is this document a rebuke or a critique of the current media? Well, if it was a rebuke or critique of the current media, it would have my support. If it was a call for greater diversity of views, more competition, more independence in media, it would have my support. But if it's an endorsement of the current media, suggesting that the only problem in journalism is a financial shortfall, then it would not have my support. I have views of my own, but in short, I don't believe the council should endorse this motion simply because it's not clear what exactly is being endorsed. As for the topic of healthy journalism, that is an important topic and a deep topic with many ethical considerations. I don't know if council is prepared to delve into that topic, nor if that is council's purpose. I hope members will engage in discussion on this motion to better understand. Perhaps it would be a simpler discussion if a clear proposal were on the table here. What exactly is being endorsed with this motion? That said, in my view, this motion is a commitment of loyalty to the media establishment. Government solutions, in this case, to, quote, move quickly to pass legislation, in my view, opens a can of worms of ethical concerns too numerous to discuss today. I do not see, but I'm open to being shown how this motion will address the trust issues between the media and the public. The motion speaks to trusted news sources, and I'm here to speak to the fact that trust in the media is at an all-time low. Studies in 2019 put the trust in Canada of the media at only 52%. These trust levels have not improved since. Earlier this month, CBC reported that a recent survey found 49% of Canadians think journalists are, quoting, purposefully trying to mislead. This motion claims that 2/3 of Canadians support financially supporting struggling news providers. But what does that imply for regional council in passing this motion? In Niagara, a portion of the public is very unhappy with local media. For example, last month, an anti-defamation lawsuit was created against local St. Catharines media, which received in a crowdfund nearly $8,000 in 2 weeks. It's quite shy of its goal, but it's still a significant signal that people are putting their money where their mouth is on being unhappy with local journalism. Meanwhile, a local campaign was started by business owners, which included petitions to fire a local journalist and distributing lawn signs that said, "Sensationalism is not investigative journalism." Why? The February 13th story about threats against Dr. Hergy was, in my view, clickbait fake news. Members of this council retweeted the story and it went viral, including Doug Ford and Justin Trudeau retweeting. The problem with the story, it was written in such a way that a local salon owner received a brunt of aggressive messages and threats. 8 days later, the story was quietly clarified, with the first sentence removing the implication that a St. Catharines salon owner caused threats. But it was too little too late for her reputation or to prevent the harassment that she received. A local business owner was put through threats and harassment. Dr. Hergy himself downplayed the story, and it was all because local media wanted to raise the pulse of the public in a salacious hit piece on local business owners and residents. The story about threats resulted in no charges, indicating that it was a nothing burger. The media quoted and named Niagara residents based on singular Facebook comments. I took the time and talked to each of the residents. The February 13th story claimed that someone called for the beheading of Dr. Hergy. That is categorically false. The truth is much sillier. The point is that the February 13th story put the Canadian public and the whole professional establishment through an emotional roller coaster because through an unnecessary and dangerous clickbait. That's why I devoted so much time to exposing it on hashtag #RetractFeb13. The February 13th story about so-called threats, in it, member of this council, Valella, was misquoted. Her comment, "Threats don't work," were, she says, taken out of context, which she viewed as not surprising. Editor-in-Chief Scott Angus addressed the February 13th story in a March 10th editorial, but ignored the controversy for what it really was and has not responded to calls retracting the story. Is this the same media that this motion would boost? Last week, members Bilesma and Diodati were raked over the coals in local media over their choice to appear on a local alternative media platform, which has an unsavory reputation in some circles. Regardless of your view of that decision, the choice of local media was to take a very sharp political side in the issue, putting shame onto two members of this council, as is their habit. Local media is practically a campaigner for certain political agendas. This is a problem in part because of the lack of legitimate competition. I'm not sure what the solution is other than more voices.
Chandra, you have 1 minute.
Excellent. As everyone in council knows, the local media sings a song and we watch who does or doesn't dance to their tune. Because of the power and influence of local media, many important things are misunderstood. Many stressful situations are unnecessarily created. Local journalism is immensely important to civic life, which is why it should be accountable to its editorial choices and biases. Every single one of you know personally the bias of the media. Of course, that comes with the territory. But this media isn't nothing but the facts. It pumps out divisive garbage, conflates meetings, and causes emotional disturbance in people. I don't know the solution except that we should rebuke it when it happens. My point is perhaps simply, the media does not represent all views. It seeks to manage perception and shape the views of Canadians. I appreciate the opportunity that this motion affords in opening this discussion, but I do not understand how the motion will help.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I kind of massacred your last name there. Is Ligetfalvy? Is that?
No, you said it perfectly. Thank you.
Okay,
Chair.
good. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ligetfalvy. So, are there any questions that from our members of council? And I see Councillor Rigby. Councillor Rigby, please go forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I hope my microphone is working.
It is.
Thank you. Just to the presenter, just one question. I understand you were at Niagara College, but are you in the media business, or is just your presentation is strictly on the basis of concerned citizen itself?
That's correct. Concerned citizen, media critic.
Pardon me?
Concerned citizen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do not see any other questions coming, so we appreciate your delegation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And with that, I will turn the meeting back to Chair Bradley.
Thank you, Councillor Foster.